Well, Professor, thank you. I
My
really
pleasure.
enjoyed not only the training, but the talking that we were doing, and thank you for being so patient and answering my questions. And this is just a beautiful facility. We are actually in what used to be a church, obviously.
Yeah.
And, you had an interesting story regarding Director David Leitch, and, both of you come from martial arts backgrounds, obviously. He's obviously done some great work in the film world, but there was a story involved with the church, and I'd kind of like you to repeat that story if you don't mind.
Well, David and I had met years ago at 8711 when it was a pretty busy training facility with Chad Stahelski.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them had come off of working together on the first John Wick. David was also suddenly branching out on his own as a film director.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd always had a nice connection, I felt, and spoke the same language, and we got to know each other a little bit more. And then when I heard that he was looking to establish his own place, I reached out to him, and he was kind enough to invite me to his home to teach him and get him up to speed with some Jiu Jitsu and some basic workouts,
Mm-hmm.
conditioning workouts. And we always, like you and I shared earlier, we would just start to geek out on martial arts and samurai swords. Like a couple of teenagers who just got the latest issue of Black Belt magazine,
Sure.
or the latest brand new pair of tonfas.
Mm-hmm.
And he had asked me about my teaching, and I said, well, consider myself spiritual, but I would say that the dojo or the academy is my church.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I find myself at home. And he says, I completely understand that. And he'd heard that before, but we both came into an agreement that this was our church.
Mm-hmm.
And undeniably it is. And then lo and behold, he mentioned having found a building, gives me the address. This is long before any of this was loaded in and fixed up. It was previously updated and retrofitted, but the mats weren't here, any of the equipment. And I start driving here and literally found myself driving to a church.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, this guy's either punking me or, but I choose to believe that what you put out there comes back to you, comes full circle, and things happen for a reason. So as you mentioned, what an interesting, different place to find yourself, that you're actually in a church, functioning church with production involved, training, sort of a one-stop shop. Mm-hmm. That's in this landmark of a building with a lot of the original flooring, stained glass windows, obviously places that are modernized and retrofitted, but this is the church.
Mm.
And he's like, you're not going to believe this. And I go, I didn't believe it. And now,
Mm-hmm.
in immense gratitude, because he and his wife Kelly made this happen. And I thought, if you need sign and markers, that,
Yeah.
that I don't know what else can happen.
Right.
So it's sort of like, now you need to start believing.
I met them on the way in. I think they were coming out with their dogs. They have
Yeah, their dogs are the best.
and one of their dogs tried to get in the car, and I think she wanted to go home with us.
Yeah, it might have been, I'm not sure who it is, but
friendly dog.
I remember training with David in the backyard, and the dogs were always there. And I'm a dog lover and an animal lover, and so I always had a nice connection with them, and they're really sweet. And they're here all the time, which is great.
Yeah.
It's another nice energy.
Yeah,
Animals
absolutely.
bring their own energy to it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're amazing. So anywhere they are, usually the dogs aren't far away.
Well, here we are on a mat, the tatami mat. Where we were doing Jiu Jitsu earlier. And other martial arts that you teach as well. But we're also in a church with these beautiful windows, and it just reminds me to, no matter what else is going out there, whatever the temptations might be out there, in quote unquote Hollywood, that no matter how much money you get, it's important to stay grounded, and you step on the mat, and it's like, let's go back to our roots, let's stay grounded. It's not just ground fighting, it's staying grounded, and then you have the windows here that remind you to be spiritual, not religious per se, but be spiritual.
That's like, I'm always happy when somebody else says it, because we're back to that we speak the same language, and the grounding is a big one, where, as you said, that to have somewhere you can go that is timeless, timeless pursuit and endeavor. Nothing will put you into the moment. Many things will, but the martial arts offer is in this moment, you're in the moment and focused and concentrating on that person in front of you. And time suddenly dissipates. It's a timeless endeavor, because you can look at the clock and say, wow, an hour has gone by, but it felt like 10 minutes. I think that's a very healthy, happy place to be, personally. But it starts with something as basic and true and simple as that environment. And when you step into the environment and step onto the mat, I believe something changes.
I agree.
And whether you're walking through the sand barefoot, or in the mountains, or bouldering, or in the ocean, or sitting underneath a tree, those are those moments where we really get a chance to reconnect, and we need, I believe, more of that. I do, speaking for myself. But I'm always in gratitude driving to train or to a seminar and say, I get to do this. And these people are waiting for me for a reason. They don't have to. But that's a gift that is priceless. That cannot be bought and paid for.
Absolutely.
And I really believe that the martial arts offers that, as you know.
What attracted you to martial arts when you were a kid?
I think it was a sense of fascination in a sort of an otherworldly pursuit. Was always interested in film, and growing up with film and the Asian martial arts in particular. But when you talk about heroes, some had their rock musician heroes, or whomever it is. But for me, it was these legendary martial artists. My dad had a martial arts background, so I think that played a part in it. And a lot of my friends that I grew up with did too.
Okay.
So that was a common denominator that we all shared, and we could all talk about and relate to. And it just became, one of those things where my parents didn't have to tell me to go to my karate class. They didn't have to tell me to go to my wrestling workout. I was already packed, the bag was already packed, and I was ready to go, and then they had to come pick me up and beg me to get out of the room. So that was where I go, well, there's something there. And then they encouraged it, thankfully. And it offered a lot in terms of self-awareness, my confidence levels, and just something to achieve, to be as good as, whether I am or not, or ever got there and didn't pretend to be. But you're always setting a goal beyond yourself to achieve, and that was Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris to a degree also. Those greats that were just wildly entertaining and fun to watch.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So then that also led into filmmaking, and always had that dangling in the back of my mind, you know. God, I really love to, having a writing background. Even when I was in theater school in New York, I go, yeah, but I want to write that martial arts movie.
Yeah.
And then so how did I end up here? Right?
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for. We've all heard that.
Right.
So things happen for a reason. Now it's on its own calendar and its own time, but if you put the work in, you never know where you're going to end up. So
Unexpected ways. Yeah.
and that's pretty cool. So hopefully that answers the question. It was just something that I was always, you know, and I would every penny I made mowing lawns or delivering newspapers went into mail order catalog, throwing stars in a ninja outfit.
Did you have the
drove my parents nuts, but
Did you have the Bruce Lee chain nunchaku? Because my mom bought me the Game of Death nunchucks when they were from the Asian World of Martial Arts in Philadelphia, and I said, Mom, and she bought them. And they back in the day they would.
Were they the rope?
They were the chain. You know.
I had the chain.
Yeah, and she was just wanted me, as long as I was expressing interest, she would buy any magazine, any book, and she would. You know, they stopped shipping them to California, but at that time, you know, it came, and it was like the heavens would open up. And
I couldn't wait until the mailman would come. I was always waiting at the curb for the mailman because I'd see the delivery package, and I go, that it's the new set of tonfas or the kicking pad or the some like throwing dart, ninja throwing dart, or a ninja mask, or the I forget the name of them. They were the black
the tabi.
Shoes that I finally got.
The ninja shoes,
Then I saved up enough to get a really exclusive pair of Game of Death, the yellow shoes that Bruce.
Oh, the ASIC shoes?
Yes.
Okay. I still want those.
No, and they're back in fashion. Which is really cool.
Yeah.
I wish I still had that stuff. But and then to sit in a room with Guru Dan Asano and talk about his training with Bruce Lee. Everything comes full circle. It's really uncanny and cool.
Absolutely.
And I just choose to believe that it's all put together for a reason, and the universe conspires. Without getting too lofty and esoteric, but that's always a part of me, as we mentioned earlier. So, it was like, as long as I wasn't joining a gang, or which I wasn't cool enough for anyways, because my guys, we were all kind of Dungeons and Dragons. And our gang name was going to be like the Sharp-Toothed Sharks or something. And I remember my dad going, it's not going to happen. It starts with a name, and that's like the lamest. The sharp, not just shark, Sharp-Toothed Sharks.
The Sharp-Toothed Sharks. In case you didn't know, you know.
Right, and that came about because I grew up watching The Warriors, the movie.
The Warriors.
Till my parents just had to like bury the VHS in the backyard. But I wanted to be in that, you know. But so they were happy that I wasn't shoplifting or in a gang. So they're like, just buy him as mail order catalog stuff and let him put divots in the bedroom wall with the throwing stars.
You know, I hear you.
You know what I mean? Could have been worse.
Yeah, I mean, you know, many mothers lost their broomsticks because of the Bruce Lee craze.
Yeah,
you know,
that's great. I know.
My mom would rather buy me the nunchaku rather than have her brooms and mops chopped and, you know, have these makeshift nunchucks made. So she says, it's cheaper just to buy.
That's so funny. I haven't heard that in a while. That's a real thing.
Yeah, and that was like, you know, a phenomenon that probably happened in many, many households. You know, even people who didn't study martial arts, you know, they were like, you know, we want to get those nunchakas, you know. And
well, I got into my mom's makeup powder and baby powder to make a ninja smoke bomb.
Oh my gosh.
That exploded and was like all over the place.
How did that go over?
Terrible. But I was always like, ninjutsu, they use smoke bombs as a form of deception.
Gotcha.
And so I had to go, well, it looks like powder, so I'll just get, you know, and it just blew up everywhere. And they're just like, okay.
I got you. I know that your journey has been interesting with many different people. You know, you did Okinawan Uetsu, you do karate, you did wrestling, and led you to judo. You eventually met Renzo Gracie, and you know, one of the greats, one of the legends, Renzo Gracie, and did jiu-jitsu in New York for a while, right? And then eventually came out here, met Professor Hanato through the Machados, and your journey has been interesting as far as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Who did you finally earn your black belt from?
Higan
Machado.
Machado.
Okay, the legend.
Trained with all of the brothers at one point, and know them all. Trained quite a bit with John when he was here in Culver City, but primarily Higan. And so that's who I got my black belt from.
Gotcha.
And from then on, you know, I had started teaching and being asked to teach more and more, which I gladly accepted, because I found that in many arts, once you start teaching, you're kind of starting from the beginning and finding a way to transfer what you've learned in a way that makes sense to people, that they can understand, and you're relearning it at the same time. So a lot of what I was teaching I hadn't addressed or done in years, that I'm suddenly trying to get someone to understand, and at the same time having a different relationship with it.
Gotcha.
So that's one of the biggest growth for me was at around year 11, when I was reverse engineering everything and looking at it from different angles and perspectives, and teaching it for quite a while now. The seminar circuit to classes, stepping in with Professor Padilla at Inasano Academy.
Right.
8711, training Chad Stahelski and David and others, and then getting into some of the celebrity training. But I always found myself in a very comfortable role as an instructor and a facilitator, a conduit of the art. And then lo and behold here. So yeah, it's been a kind of a wonky but somewhat linear trajectory. Once again, you have to learn it all over again. And I think now is when I'm really, the light bulbs keep going off. Oh, I get it now. Because I have to. I have to figure out a way to get them to understand it. Because if it's just locked in here, that's one thing. However, once I'm coaching somebody through the move that I've done 1,000 times but never really fully understood, I do now, or I'm close to. So that's, and I just, January will be year 18.
Wow.
And then, so, high school, 4 years in high school, 4 years in college as a wrestler, judo, karate. So all in all, about 30 plus years.
In addition to the things that you learned under the Inosanto Academy.
Yeah, Kali, Silat, which we're constantly
Muay Thai.
working with Muay Thai. Yuri Nakamura, we talked about with Shuto. I just gravitate towards the masters, and anyone that knows something that I don't, I find fascinating and challenging.
Gotcha.
And always open to learning something new that I can apply. You know, I have my preferences and just what I know, but there's a lot I don't know, and I don't pretend to. But I will seek out, as I mentioned before, I do my best to go right to the source. And I've been very lucky to be 1 degree of separation, if not right at the source, for most of everything that I've delved into. Even it was workshopping with Dan Gable out of Iowa. as a wrestling legend. So something somewhere has always pushed me into the laps of the founding fathers, and I'm very, very, very fortunate.
What are 5 qualities that you think you learned from martial arts that you retain to this day that you will go to your grave with?
Patience, a worldview. It's opened up a worldview of respecting cultures and different traditions. I think that's overlooked a bit, but it really is there. And I've always been fascinated with history and research. So everything I approach, I start to do a deep dive into as to why it became why it is, and may not always get the answer, but I always find myself uncovering and unlocking an interesting world that I didn't know much about. So it's expanded my worldview. And then the people that I meet that have become lifelong friends just through the martial arts. And living with this, and it's not always done, but I try to vary and improve all the time on walking the talk and stepping into a role that should be on the mats and outside of the mats. And once again, who are you as a person when you're not here is just as important as when you are in the academy or the dojo. And that's taught me a lot about that patience, the kindness, the understanding human nature. At the end of the day, more of an awareness of myself and what my purpose is. This will present that to you if you allow it. A spiritual level, a physical level, a mental level. Because you're being tested. What do you fear? Where are your hesitations? What do you lean into? What do you're traversing into that unknown. Now, are we wishing it away, or are we welcoming it as a teaching? And that applies to life, that I think can serve you. It's coming to terms with your dragons, right? Where it's not to slay the dragon or defeat the dragon, but when they say serve your dragon's tea and be with your dragon and understand your dragon, because that dragon will teach you more about yourself than you ever realized. And that's just a different shift in perception. So it's helped me on a lot of interpersonal levels with myself and my path and journey through whatever it is that we call this wild, glorious journey we're on, and this, at times, chaotic symphony. So.
My final question is my standard that I always ask all my guests. If this was your last day to teach, for whatever reason, perhaps you are transitioning or whatever, and you have all your students amongst you, what lessons or what things would you like to impart to them that hopefully they will carry with them to the end of their days? What is something that you just hope, I hope my students get this?
I think that that's a great question, and I would say that with everything that we're met with in life that can be overwhelming, or that we feel as if we're not being seen and heard or fulfilled for whatever reason that is, have something in your life that nobody can take away from you. It cannot be bartered with, it cannot be bought, it cannot be stolen. And that is the amount of time and energy in the heart that you put into this training, nobody will ever be able to take away from you. So if there's many things, that's ideal, but if there's just one thing, I want them to understand that they have the ability to know what it is that they can control, what you can't control. But this is something that you can control, because what it means is you will get back what you put into it. And in a world where we're all fighting our little battles and highs and lows and whatever euphemism you want to use, have something that cannot be toyed with, and you're dictating the terms for yourself in a positive way. And that allows me, and hopefully others, to lay your head down at night and say, I put in a good day's work, and I don't have to look over my shoulder or worry about somebody taking this away from me when everything else is being taken away, or not. So that's what I would say, to empower them to be that person, and who knows where it'll go. I don't know. Maybe they don't even know. But saying yes and showing up is part of it. When everyone else is like, I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah. It's a lot, right? We have so many distractions going on that we don't know which end is up sometimes. And then we don't even make a decision. Right. If that's that one decision you have no hesitation. It was like, I knew my bag had to be packed by the door when I was a kid, and I was ready to go. I'm like, I can't be late. Everything else, can't be late for this class. Because I know my instructor is going to be waiting for me at the door. Gotta go. Or if I miss the bus to the wrestling tournament, I'm going to be pushed through the gauntlet tomorrow, and I have to do this with the team. So be held accountable to yourself and to your training partners and to the environment, and it will come back to you in spades.
It's powerful and amazing.
That's what I believe. So.
I've enjoyed my time with you so much today.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that we were finally able to make this happen. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for reaching out. This was great. I'm glad we got to do this here.
Oh man, it was what a blessing, and I feel that I was getting some chicken skin, they say in Hawaii when you get the goosebumps, but this has been a exceptional, wonderful episode. I'm William Christopher Ford, here in the church with Professor Hugh Fitzgerald, and this has been 52 Masters. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.